Thought that was me.
1 second, I want to make, I
You
think
got
I
a great
looked
voice,
back.
Carl.
Not only can I throw my voice, I can even have two conversations at once. Take a look at the minutes, and there's a proposal to adopt, and we'll consider that.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes are adopted. Old Colony discussion, item number 1 in new business. Mr. Crowe, Councilman Crowe.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to table this discussion until next Tuesday, August the 9th. The presenter is still gathering some information that would be very important to this discussion, so I'd like to make a motion to table for
All right.
1 week.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion, or presentation is tabled for 1 week. Item number 2, Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports 2023 Agency Funding Presentation. Ms. Rush. Huh? We've cleared the decks for you.
Fantastic. Loretta is going to hand you guys a few packets or a packet.
Hey, if you would, for the people in here, would you introduce the whole thing?
Absolutely. So just real quickly before we do that, what is in this packet is a copy of our annual report. We have a new visitor guide that we produced this year, so that's in there. Some visitor data information, and then a copy of our presentation today too. So there's some different resources for you to look at a different time. But I think Stan's coming as well. He can introduce himself as he walks in. But Josh, you want to start?
Sure. Josh Rivers, Director of Community Development.
Loretta Jones, accounting and executive assistant.
I'm Siobhan Torrance, the tourism sales manager.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine Rainey and I'm the director of tourism.
So Natalia Douglas, she is, I call her our director of first impressions. So she's still at the office, and then Stan Adams should be here any minute as well. And then Samira is actually our board chair this year for the organization. So she is here to support us in that effort today.
And you're trying to fill right now
The marketing
your
director
replacement,
position,
right?
That's correct.
Okay.
We closed that job on Friday, and hopefully we will have that filled very, very soon. So
All right.
Sleep again. But as we get started, feel free to ask any questions as we go through this presentation. We've got some data that I think you'll be really interested to see in here as well. But on behalf of our entire team, I want to say thank you for giving us an opportunity to present our case for funding today as we highlight the success of our organization as well as Tuscaloosa's visitor economy from this past year. Our desire is to communicate to you the unique value that we offer and the community asset that we are. We've talked about it before, but Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports is one of the only agencies funded by the city of Tuscaloosa that generates revenue for the city in return. In addition to this, our organization as well as our industry provides opportunity for our residents. We strive every day to create a harmony of quality of life for our residents and a quality of place for our visitors. So as we begin, I want to play a short video.
Tuscaloosa is Alabama's ultimate sports destination and a place for outdoor enthusiasts to thrive. It's a community rooted in history and one that's on the cusp of a burgeoning art scene too. Tuscaloosa is vibrant, it's charming, and it's familiar. Its people welcome you with open arms and warm hellos into a community that's tied together. Tuscaloosa is our home.
So storytelling is a big part of what we do every day. As you guys can imagine, Tuscaloosa means something to many different people. But what unites every single one of us in this room today is that Tuscaloosa is our home. All of us are driven by a mission to ensure that our districts and that our communities are positioned to compete. So why is that relevant today? Well, the role of a destination marketing organization, which is what we are, continues to evolve. I know there's a lot of words on this screen, so that is why we provided a copy to you for this presentation. But to simplify it in the easiest way, when you think of our organization, think of us as Tuscaloosa's sales and marketing team. It's as simple as that. Additionally, we have a responsibility to be advocates for our industry and to be good community stewards as well. Everything that we try to do strengthens the economic position and the vitality of our community. Now, it's easy to say all day long that we do this and we do that, but let's back it up with some numbers. As we talk about impact, let me set the stage. So think about Stan, who has brought in a 400-person youth baseball tournament, or Jasmine, who has brought in a 400-person conference at the Bryant Conference Center. These individuals are not just staying in our hotels. They are eating in our restaurants, they're shopping at our stores, they're filling up their cars at our gas station, and believe it or not, many of them are actually visiting our grocery stores as well. So this impact that the visitor brings to our community is far greater than just heads and beds. It is far and wide the impact that they bring to our community. So let's first look at Tuscaloosa County's visitor economy from last year. Obviously, since we're still in 2022, we're going to look at 2020 and 2021. Here's the good news, is in 2021, our numbers were really great. We bounced back, for the most part, really well after after 2020. The other thing that was really exciting when I looked at this information is that I compared it to 2019 numbers, and our 2021 numbers actually exceeded 2019. It was not by far, but we did exceed our 2019 numbers. The other thing that was exciting to see was that our jobs bounced back as well. From a workforce standpoint, that's really positive news, and that 9,500 number is actually larger than the 2019 number as well. The new number that is on the screen that I have not presented before is the share of visitor spend. So you guys provided us that opportunity to invest in a visitor intelligence operating system last year. And part of that Zardico system, we can look at many different things, but we can look at credit card spend. So what this number says right here is that 23% of credit card spend in Tuscaloosa County in last year was done by a visitor. This is a really good metric for us to have and to continue to monitor in the years ahead. So I know you're not funding the county, you're funding us, so let's talk about our direct impact as an organization. Again, we'll look at 2021 versus 20. So our organization hosted or supported a total of 52 events last year, which generated a little bit over 21,000 room nights. Now, one thing I want to mention is that, as you guys can probably recall, 2021, we were still dealing with COVID. So sports tourism and leisure travel really bounced back well for us last year, but the meeting sector continued to struggle a little bit. But we are feeling hopeful, as you guys experienced with Alabama League of Municipalities. That's a great example of how we are meeting again, and we're really excited about what's to come in 2023. But based on those events, the room nights, and that holistic view of how visitors are spending in our community, we estimate the economic impact of those events to be a little over $32 million. Additionally, we continue to track return on investment with the Tourism Enhancement Fund. Because the last 2 years has been driven mostly by sports, we just looked at sports specifically. So while that number did go down a little bit, we still are very pleased with where that dollar amount is. Again, it is a number we will continue to monitor, but it reiterates that point that we've got to be intentional with the events that we're going forward with the Tourism Enhancement Fund. So what that says, though, is for every dollar invested into a sporting event through the TEF, $160 was returned based on estimated economic impact. We continue to support the Tuscaloosa Civil Rights Trail as well. We are doing this in a variety of different ways, but one thing I want to highlight is something that we hadn't been doing that we are this year. We've already hosted 20 different travel writers, journalists, bloggers here in this community. Now, they're seeing different aspects of Tuscaloosa, but we have made sure that every single one of them has had the opportunity to learn about the Tuscaloosa Civil Rights Trail. I'm really excited to say that we have about 4 or 5 more planned in the next 4 to 6 weeks, so more are continuing to come. Now, where this gets really fun is I want to dig a little bit more into the impact of sports tourism. So we've said as an organization, we said, how are we truly impacting this community? Well, the Zardico information allows us to look into that a little bit further. So we dug into 3 tournaments from the summer of 2021, a time that's a little bit slower for our community. So what you're seeing on this slide are the 3 tournaments that we wanted to dig into, which was the high school regional softball tournament, Grand Slam baseball tournament, and the Dixie Youth Division II state tournament. The dashed line that goes from left to right is the average visitation in our community during that period of time. So again, this is May through the end of June 2021. Anything above that line means that there was a lift in visitation. We are tracking this by geolocation, so we are tracking those who let us, mobile devices. So that's how we're gathering this data through Zarco. So we see that our events that we are hosting created a lift in visitation. The other thing that we really enjoyed seeing is that a couple of these other spikes were also coincided with other events that we hosted. So like USA Duathlon was one of those. We had a Memorial Day baseball tournament. We had a college exposure softball tournament as well, and all of those had an increase in visitation. Now, it's great that people are visiting, but are they spending money in our community while they're here? And let's take a look at that. So the dash line that goes across is the same thing. Anything above that is a lift in visitor spending now. So as you can see on this screen, 2 of the 3 that we dug into had a lift in visitor spending. What I like about this screen here is that it helps us make informed decisions and helps us identify what events are working and not working. We want to make smarter decisions moving forward, and this data empowers us to do that. So an example is the high school regional softball tournament. For the last couple of years, we've kind of had this intuition that the economic impact that we thought it was bringing was not there. It is a regional tournament. We have a lot of local teams participating in it. So are people staying in the night in our hotels? Are they spending money in our community? Well, we went with our intuition last year and we declined to renew the contract. Well, this data validated that we were correct. So while it is a great event, it requires a lot of time and money to put this event on. So the return on the investment really is not there. So again, it empowers us to make smart decisions with this data, amongst many other things. So I'm going to dig just a little bit deeper on the Dixie Youth Division II state tournament. I think, again, you'll like seeing this information. So because we are tracking mobile devices, we identified anyone that was at Bowers Park that was defined as a visitor during that tournament weekend. So because of that, we were able to see that visitors spent time at an additional 246 points of interest throughout our community.
Quick question, how does the mobile device distinguish between a visitor and
Yep.
somebody that's a resident?
Yep, that's a good question. So they use, their source is a data partner called NEAR, and they can identify our devices where we work and live. So anything that is over 30 miles from where that device works and lives is considered a visitor.
Gotcha.
So, and there's more information, like we can also look into when we identify you as a visitor, were you a short stay, a long, like a multiple hours, were you an overnight stay? So there's different ways we can.
What's that program you use called?
It's called NEAR, N-E-A-R is the vendor for that. Zardoco has relationships with many, many different vendors, but this is the one that they use to track the visitation flow. So when we get this information and we say, okay, they've been at 246 points of interest, we can also look at, well, what were those points of interest? So what hotels were they staying at? What were the things that they were doing? So I just want to show one more slide. And this is the top things that these visitors did while they were here. So if you take a look at this list, what I loved most about this list is that it meant our visitors who were at Bowers Park were also out spending money in our community. Guys, this is an example of how Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports is identifying events that create an economic impact for our community and generate revenue for the city of Tuscaloosa. This is, again, I am just scratching the surface on the data that we can actually show. The other thing I want to mention is like that 246 points of interest, that's based on the people that we can actually track. There's a lot of people that we can't track their mobile devices.
So Kelsey, I like this. How, if I'm a visitor,
Mm-hmm.
does someone ask me to connect my phone? How does that work?
So you do give permit, well, you do or don't give
Okay.
permission, but it's not them as the vendor. They track us through like app usage and that type of stuff.
Okay.
We will never know that it's Matthew Wilson
Okay.
visiting Tuscaloosa. You have a number that you are associated with, and we will never know your identity.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it is done through our mobile devices and typically through like map usage or maps, apps, that type of stuff is how we're tracking.
Cool.
So I know I'm sharing a lot of information, and I want to wrap so that we can ask any questions you might have. So Today we've presented our case for why we are requesting a $1.5 million budget. This is a 20% increase from last year. Transparently, with that additional funding, we would use most of it to go towards sales and marketing. Again, remember, the role of our organization and why we exist is to be your sales and marketing organization for the city of Tuscaloosa. But I do think it's really important that you understand what questions we're asking ourselves and kind of where our heads are for the future. I personally believe we are at a pivotal moment in our organization's history that is largely due to what the city of Tuscaloosa is doing, the investments that you're making. This is things like enhancing our parks, a savings center, an event center, which I implore you to consider voting yes this evening on. People want to come visit Tuscaloosa. We turn down business all the time because we do not have the facility to support the demand. We have a destination that people want to visit. But here's the thing, our organization cannot sit idle. We cannot wait until the ribbon is cut on these buildings or these new assets. The reason is for that is because many of our organizations that we are working with, they are already bidding out for events that are 2024, 2025, 2026 and beyond. That is why we need the $1.5 million budget for this next year so that we can begin to prepare, plan, create that awareness, and start selling these new assets that our community will have one day, hopefully in the near future. So what are some of the things that we are gonna do, kind of big ticket items looking at 2023? There's a lot on this screen. My personal opinion is that the top three are what I believe to be the most important. Our organization has not had a strategic plan for the last couple of years. I think it is critically important that we have that as we look towards the future. This will be a 3 to 5 year plan. This will include goals. This will include sales strategies. This will include research on our community and competitor communities as well. And to be honest, we will seek industry experts to help guide us in this because it's too important to not get it right. As you can tell, the data, we've again just shared a little bit, but it tells a story and we've got to continue to invest in it. And quite honestly, that data is not just ours, it is for everyone in this room. We want to share it, it's powerful, it tells a story. So we're more than willing to share whatever we have access to. But we have to honestly continue to invest in it and probably invest into it a little bit more. Our sales and marketing, we are excited to take that up to the next level. And things like our customer relationship management software tool that we use. We are using it, we've been using it for years, but we need to take it to the next level. To do that, we've got to have more funding. It's going to empower our team to do our jobs better than we are today. So those are just a few of the things that we are going to do with that additional funding. And as we wrap, I want to reiterate that point. Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports is one of the only agencies that you fund that provides or generates revenue for the city of Tuscaloosa in return. When you invest in us, you are continuing your investment in this city and you're making a difference. And I want to leave with a quote that I've really grasped onto from the industry, and it's from an individual who was the chair of Destinations International for a couple years. And she said, tourism builds community. Build a community that people want to visit, and you build a community that people want to live in. Build a community that people want to live in, and you build a community that people want to work and do business in. It is our honor and our privilege to be Tuscaloosa's destination marketing organization. We look forward to continuing to work with you guys into the future and making a difference in this community together. So with that said, we will open the floor for any questions that you might have, and I just appreciate you guys' time today.
Cool. Thank you, Kelsey, very much. Gentlemen, any questions?
You mentioned $250,000 for mainly marketing. What does that? What would that $250,000 be invested in?
Yeah, so that's a lot of it. Just go backwards.
Hold on a second, let me click in there, it's now try.
It's okay. So there are a lot of, oh, there we go. So one of the things that we've got to do, and you probably noticed, we actually took the time this year to implement or to create a new brand. You probably saw that Visit Tuscaloosa logo at the beginning, you see it in the visitor guide, you see that TCL in the bottom. Now, I've had someone ask me, why is that important? I don't care about logos. What does that mean to me? Again, as your sales and marketing organization, a brand is important to us, and it's the awareness that we're using to create for our community. So So we've got to implement a new brand. Think about all the things that our logo is on: signage, banners, tablecloths, our vehicle. So that's one thing. We literally do not do any digital advertising. So this is like paid social media, retargeting of people that go to our website, search engine optimization and marketing. We do none of that. We are way behind on that. That right there, if we had the money to spend, we could easily spend $100,000 on that. You know, we'll see what we spend on it, but that right there could be a big chunk of that additional funding. The world of PR and travel writers, we've got to have a strategy. It is a huge opportunity for us. We've tapped into it this year. Even though we're not really having to pay people to come, we have to sometimes pay to have them here. So it's things like that that really fall under that marketing umbrella that we will look to do in the next year. And those are just, again, a few examples.
Thank you, Kelsey. I would comment on the event center, and I can only make this comment because Kelsey enlightened me the other day when we were talking separately. That event center doesn't take off like a helicopter. We don't plan it, build it, hire somebody to manage it and including marketing it, and it just takes off like this. That event center needs a multi-year marketing runway to get off the ground when somebody turns the key and opens it up. The people, the organizations that are the clientele for that do that planning 2 and 3 years in advance. So until that, Norman, you quizzed pretty hard about who's going to run it, are they going to market it, how much is that going to cost? All of that still TBD. But the in-house marketer of that on the runway leading up to it is probably this crew right here. So I would stir that in the mix. If you're in the business of generating lodging tax or even sales taxes, the ability of this organization to actually operate almost as an adjunct research engine for the city's generation of revenues is pretty impactful. Thanks. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for bringing your crew. Matthew, Norman, any?
I was just going to say to Kelsey's point, the one great thing about tourism, and I think they do a really good job, but if you do your job, it's not like what's being allocated to you is not coming back to us. Because the more events you get, the more people you get here, it kind of increases our pot of dollars for the city. But I was trying to remember, and Walt, you may remember this off the top of your head, but I remember our first budget last year, we all had a discussion about trying to get y'all to this number within, I think the number you're putting up there in about 3 years. But I know funding was increased last year, Walt. I just don't remember. Was it 150? Was it up 100?
We took it up 200,
1,077,000. I
Well-
think it went to 1,250,000.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that discussion we had
Absolutely.
last year as a group with the mayor. I mean, as we went through part of this stuff, but this is going to be a crazy question, and I'm good at asking crazy questions. But when you sit down and make your budget and you look at charging your team on a yearly basis, how do you measure success? Or how would you measure success to say you have deployed your capital? I mean, it's not a gotcha question. I'm
No,
I'm
it's a
curious
good
how you would, how do you manage success with your team?
Yeah, and transparently, I'm kind of going through the budget process this first time as well. But I think we have to continue to look at economic impact, the number of events that we are touching and supporting in some capacity. Awareness is really difficult to measure, but we can do some different marketing strategies that does measure engagement and intent to travel. There's some really powerful tools out there. Just as an example of the success we had recently, we told our board last week, on social media alone, in the month of, what month are we in? In the month of May, I think it was, On social media alone, we had over $1 million impressions on social media. And that is not putting any money behind what we're doing. So it's the sales activity, it's the marketing activity, it's the estimated economic impact. I think things like visitor share of spend, it's all of that data is what helps gauge us on if we're being successful or not. And here's the good thing, our industry shares information. And so we have no problem at all reaching out to our counterparts and asking them those questions too. How do you measure success? How are you held accountable in your community? And they're more than willing to share that information. So I know I kind of went around
that's
a little
good.
bit, but that's how I would answer that question today.
Well, to me, I think if you're investing blank amount of money, I think we had that discussion a little bit last year of, it remind me how many dollars come back. I mean, like, I can't remember, we talked about that.
So
The impact of your organization on just, I mean, for every dollar spent that we've invested, let's say per se, y'all have turned it into, I can't remember, it was a pretty good number.
Yeah, of the 52 or 52 events that we did last year.
Yeah.
And again, I paraphrase this with estimated economic impact,
Sure.
but it was over $32 million.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot.
It is. And again, the city benefits from that, but our small businesses benefit from it, our hotels benefit from it. There's a lot of people benefiting from it, and it's providing opportunity for our residents.
I think y'all do a great job.
I just want to say, I know the mayor knows this, but as long as I've been up here, I have loved and preached tourism and the importance, because it's the only organization, and thank you for saying that first, that gives back to what we give. There's no question, y'all are one dynamic team. Each of you are so strong in what you do. I will say, I'm definitely, of course, ready to vote now on the event center. I would be the first yes, and one thing though, I really appreciate Stan helping me out, and I'm hoping when we go to design that it will be a 30,000 square feet. And I've got a list here of NCAA 3 championship, it's only money, and we're gonna get. Isn't that right, Mayor?
That's
It's only money, but we're gonna get back, what we put in, and there's some things like, I've met with Stan so many times at places that they have to use 3 and 4, even 8 different venues to have an event, or we can, because they don't have something like 30,000 square feet, even like an NCAA Division III basketball championships, and it's unbelievable how big cheer and dance is, but these types of things have to have, they really have to have 30,000, or they're not gonna really consider you.
Let me
Correct.
put it in perspective, because I know most of you got to visit Alabama League of Municipalities this year when we hosted it. So I was talking to Keely, who organizes that event, and we were talking about the potential of an event center. And you guys saw where we have to use multiple venues to make that happen. So I asked her, what do you need, what square footage do you need to house that event under one roof? And she said 30,000 square feet. So again, just put that in perspective. That's an 800 person event, 800 plus, I think actually. It was around there, 800 plus person event. They use multiple spaces, they need breakout rooms, that type of stuff. So that just kind of helps paint the picture of what the potential could be with that size. So.
Just add in my 2 cents. I think that additional money is the least we can do. I mean, we're gonna make money if we put more than this 250, we're gonna make it back, whatever we do. They're gonna make it back.
I'm so excited there's council that understands tourism.
Hey, we're thinking. Awesome. Well, if we are always available to answer any questions that you guys have, and just again appreciate everything you do to support us.
Matthew and Norman, there is accounting and finance put together a nice excerpt out of that gazillion-page application fund and the financials, as well as their budget for 21, 22, and 23. On the back 3 pages. It's very good. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kelsey, for coming.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thanks, guys.
I vote yes.
Okay, is there any other business to be brought before I guess Kip wants to vote on, go ahead and spend the
I
money.
wanna vote yes on the tourism.
Is there
And I vote yes
any
on
other,
the
any other business from one of the members of the finance committee?
Yes, sir.
I think we're good.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in